What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna kind of deviate a little bit from the typical trucking content, and I got a Mustang I gotta work on over here. Got a issue with the thrust washer on the left rear axle, and here's a telltale sign for anybody that has a S550 chassis number Ford Mustang, which is 2015 to 2023. If you ever get kind of a clunk in the rear end, sounds like it could be U-joint, or worst case scenario, a differential. We get the clunk typically between when you go from reverse to forward or from forward to reverse. Yes, mine's an automatic. Make fun of me in the comments if you want to.
It was at this moment Jackson knew. He f***ed up.
So, if you get that clunk when you put it into gear like that, I've learned that typically it is a thrust washer issue. It's a $15 part. You got to tear apart, you got to tear the wheel bearing off and get access to the axle, to the half shaft, and then you can go ahead, put the new thrust washer on. Now, I'd never even heard of a thrust washer. Honestly, I'll be completely honest. I've done axles and things like that before, hub bearings, all that kind of stuff. I've never heard of or seen a thrust washer. For $15, that little washer, when it goes bad, can create these exact issues. I've already put a new wheel bearing on there thinking that was the problem. At least we know this side's already been taken apart, so it shouldn't be very hard to take apart. The wheel bearing has already been taken off, so it should be fairly easy. They should not be corroded. The bolts and whatnot should not be corroded in, so we should be good to go there. So I got to go ahead and move the Jeep out of the garage, and I'm going to move our riding mower out to give us just that much more space, and then we'll put the Mustang in here and jack it up and get to work. All right, got the Jeep over there. We'll do a little start on the car here real quick. It's not going to be a cold start because I just drove it, but it'll still sound good. So it's not too bad. All I have done to the exhaust is I cut out the resonator, which is basically a middle muffler, giant muffler, like a 30-pound muffler. Don't be confused with a catalytic converter. It's not a catalytic converter. To cut that out and put in a H-pipe, and that's all I did, and it sounds way better than stock. All right, now I'm going to see if I can duplicate that sound. It doesn't do it every time, but I just want to see if I can make the sound really quick before I put it in the garage, so anybody that's questioning it knows that it's this exact sound. There it is. That right there, you had to have been able to hear that. That ticking and clunking, that's apparently this thrust washer. So let's get this in the garage, take it apart, and see what we find. All right, let's get our jack. There we go. We're in my room here. I always like to double and triple check to make sure I'm in the right spot. Last thing you want to do is jack this thing up by the wrong spot of the weld. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this floor jack under the differential and lift it up, support the car by that for right now, so I can take the other jack out and put one of those things, jack stand. So I can put a jack stand where the other floor jack is. Of course, this is going to take even longer. But that way it's a little, it's always safer to put the car on a jack stand as opposed to a hydraulic floor jack, because eventually the hydraulic floor jack could bleed down and put you into some serious issues. But this car sits so low, to get under here like this and have any room to move this bar around, you got to jack it up from the side first. And then the car gets up just high enough to get a jack under the differential. All right, we got her jacked up. Made a mistake. Should not have used the smaller floor jack under the differential. Proved to be a little unstable. So I went ahead and moved, well, like after I got it all set up on the jack stands, which I put a jack stand on each side, just to make the car stable and even though I'm not doing the other side right now. But yeah, I went ahead and put the bigger floor jack under the differential for added support, while we start to take this thing apart. And then, of course, when you get the tire out, you kind of want to put the tire under the car as well, for as much security as possible in case one of the jack stands or the jack fails. So that way, if it falls, it's going to land on the wheel and tire instead of you. First off, I got to get my impact wrench out of the Jeep. By the way, I love this little security trunk that this Jeep is equipped with. An aftermarket security deal. All right. Oh, and by the way, somebody asked me, they're like, well, what if the top is down and somebody reaches in there and folds down your seat? They'll have access to the cargo area if they fold your seat down. Well, let me show you. No, they won't. Look at that. The whole thing is enclosed. There we go. All right. Now I just want to get all my tools ready, placed out here that I'm going to need. That way they're all within arm's reach and it helps the job go a little faster. There may actually not be enough room under this car for this tire. Now that I think about it, we'll see. All right, the axle nut is a 32 millimeter to put on here when I put it back together, just to be safe. They say you should never reuse one of these if you take it off, so I got another one. All right, so now what we want to do, gotta take the caliper off right here, which this is a brand new caliper, by the way. Gotta take the new caliper off, and we gotta take the mounting points, the mounting brackets for the brake line, got to take those off so that we can move the caliper out of the way. And then we will, of course, pull the rotor off, which right now the only thing holding the rotor is the caliper and the brake pads. So we'll take that off, take the bracket off right here. Maybe take the bracket off right there. I can't remember. I don't think so. But at least we got to take this bracket off at the very least. Move it out of the way. I believe we will have to take off this bracket here for the brake, well, for the brake line. I'm sorry, this right here is the brake line. This right here is the emergency brake line, but you still got to remove that. Then we got to remove this right here as well, so that, again, we've got more movement with the brake line here. Just don't want to twist it because you don't want to damage the brake line here and cause it to swell inside. And then we'll take the caliper off and then pull the rotor off, and then I just have to take the hub off, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky without taking all this suspension crap off, because you got to make just the right, you got to get just the right room in there to get back there and get the 4 bolts, or the 4 bolts that hold the hub on to the knuckle. They're a little tricky to reach. All right, now we just got to take the nuts off that hold the, like I said, the caliper, or the bracket for the caliper in place. And then we can pull the caliper out, and then we want to hang the caliper so it's not, or at least place it on something so there's no tension on this rubber line right here, which is what could easily damage the inside of the line. So we don't want to do that. Socket you want for the bracket is a 18 millimeter. That's what will get the bracket off of the knuckle here. I always like to leave my sockets right here, my sockets and my nuts and whatever I take off, I put right here on the tray on the bottom of my stool here. Let's see if this is even enough here for this. Probably not. All right, well, let's not break this again. A friend of mine will understand that reference. I just brought a breaker bar over here. What did I do with it? What did I do with an entire breaker bar? There it goes. All right. Got it. Now we should be able to zip them off with this guy. Got him. All right, guys, got the caliper off right here, and it is not hanging. There's plenty of slack in that line. Had to unbolt the bracket over here for the brake, for the emergency brake line as well, just to give it a little bit more of a stretch. And I put the tire under here, even though it won't fit under here. Put the tire under here so that way I could use it to set the caliper on, and it is not touching the rim. It is touching the tire, so it's not going to damage anything like that. So now we just I've already pushed on this with a rubber mallet. So now all we got to do is I'm going to take off the dust shield to give myself a little bit more room. And then the bolts back here that we got to take off, you see them right here. That's where they come out at on the knuckle here. And you'll see them right here. Here's one of them. That's the easiest one to get to. And then there's a couple more. The hard ones are going to be right back here somewhere. So they're going to be right behind there. So they're going to be a little tight to get to, a little tough to get to, but we'll figure it out. All right, guys, we got it. Got the bearing off right here. This is a newer bearing. But yeah, we got the bearing out of there. And right here is the culprit. We got this little, called a thrust washer. I don't understand its purpose exactly. Something about the torque and the axle and all of that mumbo jumbo. But now I got to figure out how that comes out of here. But then we got a new one. I don't really see what's wrong with that one, but apparently it's broken in some way, shape, or form. So now we got to figure out how that comes off of there. I don't know if I just pry it out with a screwdriver or something, but we'll get it. All right, it's pretty simple. It just basically slides off with a pair of needle nose pliers. Got it. Well, I don't really see what's broken. Unless it just wears down. I'll go get the new one and put it side by side, see how they look together. Alright, let's see. So right here is the new washer, or the new axle nut rather. Genuine Ford part. And here's the new thrust washer. So we'll take it out and see how it compares. Here is, in case you guys want to know, here's the part number for said thrust washer. So we'll go ahead and see what we can do with it, see how that does. And then of course I won't really know if it did anything until I get it all back together and go drive it and see what it does. So here's the two side by side. It's honestly I don't really see much of a difference. I don't know. Like I mean there's maybe a little scoring along this one. You can kind of see some scratch marks along there. So maybe it was slipping, and that's what was causing it. Somehow this one's not going to slip. I have no idea. But we'll put it back together and see what we can do. Alrighty, let's throw the new one on. I will say this seems a little more snug than the old one did. Alright, oh, it's in there. Supposedly this is a new and improved thrust washer. So supposedly that's actually, it's improved because it's a common failure on these cars. So like I said, there's not a whole lot of information about these thrust washers online. But I did a lot of digging about it. There's really nothing about it on YouTube. There's nothing I can find. I can't find anything on YouTube. Unless I'm putting in the wrong words on the search engine, I don't know. But I can't find anything about it on YouTube. Now on Google, there's a few write-ups on it on some forums. And every person that talked about needing to replace this had the exact same symptoms that this car does with the clunking and the way it drives and everything. So they all thought that it was their wheel bearing too. So they all replaced their wheel bearing, not even realizing this thrust washer was there. Because really, as you could tell when it was on there, the old one blended in so much, you couldn't even hardly see it, covered in the oil and everything. New one obviously stands out a lot more, but the old one didn't really stand out very well. So a lot of people never even knew that it was there. And then they did the research on it and found out that it was, and that everybody that's been having that same issue realized that they just needed to replace the thrust washer. If it's that simple, great. I mean, it's a good amount of labor to get to it, especially for a novice like myself, it's not bad. I mean, as long as the bolts all come out, it's not too bad at all. It's just hard to believe that that little washer would cause all that mayhem, all that havoc. But hey, I'm up for anything. We'll give it a shot and see what it does. Now, just to make it a little bit easier, guys, I loosened up this top bolt on this vertical link here, and I removed the bottom one here. That way you could just pull this thing. Of course, now it's not going to move. Ah, you little son of a gun. Yeah, it was moved. I had this out of the way, but it's in there. I got to kind of hammer it back in and line it up with the holes. I moved this out of the way to give myself a little bit more room back here to turn that wrench. Made a world of difference when you're trying to get those 15 millimeter bolts out to remove and replace this wheel bearing on the knuckle. Now I just got to hammer this and get it lined up so I can get the bolt back through here, and then we can get everything reassembled and go take it for a test drive. All right, you want to make sure you put the spindle nut there, or axle nut, whatever you want to call it. You want to make sure you put it on there at the right torque spec. And if you Google it, it's a 98 foot-pound torque spec with a half turn further past that. So get my torque wrench out. And now we just got to put this on 98. Now I don't have a fancy digital one, but it'll work. All right, now we just need socket, 32 millimeter. There it is. All right, so scratch the half turn. It's 98 foot-pounds and then another 45 degrees turn. So that's like, what, about another eighth or so of a turn? Then you'll be in spec. Of course, when you put the rotor back on, you're going to want to spray it down with some brake cleaner. Just going to put it on here real quick. Beautiful. All right. I just forgot something. The dust shield. We got to put the dust shield back on before the rotor. So let's get the dust shield put back on. Can't forget that. All right, ready to throw the wheel back on. Good news, we got everything secured. We got the brake caliper back on. Of course, the rotor. Spindle nut, we're good there. Torqued that down. Got that bracket back on. I got this one back on, and I got that one back on. So we got all three brackets for the brake lines. I tightened the vertical link bolts. We got those back in, and that's about it. Of course, I got the 4 bolts in that hold the bearing to the knuckle, and we're good. Yep. Let's get that wheel back on. Take it for a test drive. All right. It's weird too. The new one takes a 22, and the other ones take a 21. I don't understand that, but they do. Okay, where'd my 21 go? Dang it, where'd my 21 go? Oh, here it is. All right, 21 was sitting on the car. Sure, that'll make people happy. Oh, I was wrong. 21 goes on here, on the new one. 22 goes on the old ones. It's not like I torqued them down yet or anything. All right, we just got to take it off the jack stands here. And we'll be good, I hope. I really hope that was a problem, and I really hope I put it back on right. I don't see how I couldn't. It just slides off and slides back on. So should not be that difficult to figure out. Like I said, all that is just labor. I mean, there's really no hard work involved. It's just, you know, it's like nothing. You have to be smart, no real technical stuff. You just got to slide that washer, the old one, off and slide the new one on. So if it's still making that noise, well, then we'll have to figure it out. But let's get it off these jack stands and we'll see if it does. Yep, this is a much more stable jack, floor jack, than the black one. Oh, I'd love to have a lift, like an actual lift. That'd be so cool. All right, that might work. There it goes. All right. Perfect. I think she's fixed. Yeah, I went down the driveway, did whatever I could to make it make that noise, and it didn't. I think we're good. See right there, sometimes when I put it in reverse, it would make that clunking noise. Did not do it this time. That absolutely would have made that noise right there. Oh yeah, boys and girls, I'd say we fixed it. Alright, we'll turn around right here and go back. Yep. Heck yeah, man, that is awesome. I can't believe a little tiny washer like that made all the world made that difference. $15 part, man. That's all it was. All right, well, that's good. Yep, she's fixed. And it's starting to rain. But all right, everybody, I really appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, this is something I enjoy doing. I like working on my cars when I have time. It gets frustrating at times, but that went pretty smooth. I was torn down to the axle, to that where I had to get get the washer off and everything put back on in a matter of a couple of hours. So that's not bad. Not bad for a novice like myself. But anyways, guys, that's all there is for this video. I'll have fun editing this one. I'll enjoy it. But you guys all have a good one out there. Be safe and keep surviving to thrive. And whatever aspect of life that might be, however whatever you do out there, survive and thrive. That's all I gotta say. I gotta get the mower back in the garage. But all right, guys, you all stay safe out there, and we will catch you guys in the next video. Take care.